to another episode of Transformational Tuesday here on Deb TV. Dynamic, empowered, and bold. And we are in for a treat because this woman, I don't even want to call her a woman. I consider her a goddess. She has this light and this energy that I can promise you by the end of this episode, you are going to feel so much compassion, so much love, and so much light. If you don't, I'll give you your money back. Just kidding. I know it's going to be true because today's guest is an amazing woman that I met when I did the Global Meditation Scope. And she was featured on my panel in New York at the Periscope Summit. And she was incredible. She is incredible. But let me introduce her to you formally. She is Nadia Hosko, a transformational coach, singer, and meditation guide. Nadia helps heart-centered entrepreneurs to transform their life and business, guiding them to cultivate more energy, we love energy, confidence, freedom, fulfillment, and financial abundance. Can we all have some of that? Please help me welcome Miss Nadia.
Hi there, Deborah. Thank you so much. It's actually such an honor and a pleasure to be here with you. It was so beautiful to be able to meet you in New York, and your energy is just a gift and an inspiration. So thank you so much for having me.
Oh, yes. I couldn't wait. You guys are going to get the experience of Nadia because some people are, you need to see them. Other people, you need to hear them. And Nadia's sound healing, I didn't even mention that in her description, but she has such a profound way to be able to transform you from the inside out that you definitely want to tell your family and friends to turn off the Real Housewives, to get off the American Idol or whatever is on TV, and to come over here right now and tune in because you are going to be in for a treat. So I want to let you know that the topic for today is how to discover your life purpose. But even more than that, it's about returning to your true self and really knowing who you are. And one of the things that I think Nadia has a special gift for is just, I know for me, when I first experienced her, I just felt so much love. I was literally in tears, wasn't I, Nadia? I was like, every single time I experience you, and you guys are going to know what I mean by the end of this session, I felt so much love. It's like when I meditate, I get that same feeling, but especially with people that, like Nadia, that are so full of love that when they share it, you remember the truth of who you are. So I want to hear more about you, Nadia, and your background and how you became this amazing leader in the world. Can you just tell our viewers about yourself?
Oh, thank you, Deborah. Yeah, it was a long journey, and that's one of the reasons why I feel so called to help people along their journey, because sometimes it's a path, and it's a life discovery, and it's a path to find out how you want to serve the world. So for me, that started at the age of about 13 with meditation. Somehow I felt guided. I had a very spiritual mother, and I felt guided to go within and to discover, what was within me. And so when I discovered meditation, I just felt like I had discovered something, and it was this feeling that felt undeniable to me, this feeling of joy that felt like whenever I connected, that was there. So that was the beginning of my journey. I was very lucky to have several mentors growing up. One who helped me transition to a macrobiotic diet, which is a Japanese healing diet, and it gave me Reiki treatments. So that was kind of my initiation into that world. Fast forward a little bit, as a teenager, I really, whatever I could put my hands on, whatever I could find, I basically would do. So all these alternative healing therapies. And so I got certified as a Reiki practitioner when I was 18. And from there on decided to do a nutrition degree. I always felt, and people ask me, I seem to have two great loves, and the great loves are music and self-healing and self-growth. So it's like the path to discovery and music. And interestingly, and I'll let you know how I got into music, but they both have always intertwined in terms of me learning about myself as a person and showing up in the world, and intending to show up in the world as myself has shown itself through my music. So I did a nutrition degree, and when I was doing my nutrition degree, I had the opportunity to go to Australia on exchange.
Ooh.
Yeah, yeah. And I'll talk to you a little bit about this after, about the concept of, people who are looking for their purpose, to discover or rediscover their purpose, whether they're in business or whether they are just starting out. The concept itself has to do with following your energy. Following what feels like it has a bit of a spark and what feels like it's kind of magical to you. And so when I was in my nutrition degree, I found out that I had the opportunity to go to Australia, and it had that spark for me. It was one of those things, like I knew I was meant to be there. Like I just knew I was supposed to be there. And so I went on exchange. And while on exchange doing a nutrition degree in Byron Bay at the Blues Festival, I discovered a band called the Cat Empire. And this band provided for me one of like the most joyful experiences that I've ever had, I think, like in concert, to the point where I was like, wow, this exists. This opportunity to experience joy exists. And I want to give that to other people. Like I felt like I had discovered something that felt just like quintessential to life, like a thread that just led somewhere, and I knew I had to follow it. And so when I got back from Australia, I had become friends with some of the band members, and one of them visited me, and I saw him in his joy. And you know what it's like when you see somebody in their joy and you see them in their purpose, and something about how he was just really resonated within me. And I was like, I need to do that. Well, how am I going to do this? I think that means that I need to go back to school. So I auditioned for a jazz program and got in as a jazz vocalist. I always loved singing as a child. And so I did a 4-year jazz degree. And the whole time, the spiritual journey continuing, because to show up as a singer is to show yourself to the world, I think, and to showcase yourself. And so there were a lot of, I learned a lot about myself in those 4 years. So I did the 4 years, and then my journey as an entrepreneur afterwards came. I believe that entrepreneurs are truly like really special people, and that they have the opportunity to share their gifts with the world. And this is, you'll notice, and then we'll talk and we'll pause about, sections in this and the learnings that I've learned from this, so I can hopefully, be of service to other people. But can
we pause for a second before you go on to your entrepreneur journey? Because I want to go a little bit deeper with the first part. So when you said that you had a spiritual mom that got you into meditation, we relate. My mom had me like an intuition class when I was 8 years old. I was like, my mom is totally crazy. I thought she was just insane. And now I'm so grateful that she got me into all of that. Like we had to like look at a candle that was yellow and what was our interpretation of it. I was like,
that is, wow. I love that you started at the age of 8.
Yeah, and
your mom actually sounds like an inspiring woman.
Oh, she is. And I really had turned it off for a while because it kind of scared me, the same thing that meditation scared me, because I would go so deep so fast. And so what I heard you saying, what I really want people to highlight and underline when it comes to discovering your purpose, this is the teacher part of me, is you said it's about energy and it's about following your joy. So oftentimes people believe, follow your passion or follow your passion, the profit will follow. But it's really about the energetic field of what makes me happy, what makes me feel alive. And I was just curious to the correlation between your macrobiotic diet and your energy, and how you felt. Did it make you more clear, or did it enable you to find your purpose easier? I just wanted to understand that even deeper.
Yeah, thank you. It's interesting that you would ask. I think it definitely brought me some clarity. Getting the Reiki treatments and being on the macrobiotic diet was, it was one of the things that as a child made me feel very different. Like I would be in high school and people were eating like fries, and they'd come up to me, and I had like brown rice and gomashio and tofu. And back then, like people didn't know what that was. And so they would come up and ask me, what these things were. And I think that was, for me, it highlighted a moment where I felt I felt like I was called to do something different. Looking at how people were eating, it just, like deep inside of me, it just felt like I wanted to help people. And I felt like, oh my God, I feel like maybe I know something that other people don't know at the time in terms of their health. And so I definitely followed my energy back then because it made me I was so curious about it, about the, the alternative diet. And so, yeah, I think I definitely at that time followed my curiosity. I loved the fact that it was slightly controversial. At the time I had a mentor who was telling me, here are the reasons why maybe you shouldn't drink milk, when I had grown up hearing my entire life that milk was really healthy for you. And so, yeah, I remember going to the library and just seeing what I could find, and it was exciting for me.
Yeah, my mom was a Reiki master too.
Wow, that is amazing.
Yeah, she's still. So my brother, when he was going through like ADD type issues, my mom's like, no problem, we're gonna do ADD, we're gonna do Reiki instead of Ritalin, see how that works. Yeah, so, and I felt awkward and weird with my brown rice to school and all of that. So much in common with you, but I really hear what you're saying about, sometimes when you are a revolutionary and you're a leader on a path, it can feel like you don't fit in. And one of the famous quotes that I love is that, people that follow the rules never make history or her story, right? Right. So plus play. So now you're becoming a jazz. You just finished your jazz degree. Oh, that jazz, right? And you're doing that. What happens next?
Yeah, so I recorded an EP, an album as part of our fourth year project essentially, and I had it mastered and recorded outside of the studio at school. And so I, in my mind at that time, I was going to be a singer. Like I was going to be a solo artist, and I thought that this was my path and what I wanted to do. And about 4 months into it, I started feeling alone, and I started feeling like everything that people had told me from an experiential perspective, that the music industry was really hard. I felt alone. Like I felt like I was the person carrying the torch for my own music. And I thought to myself, geez, I don't ever want people to feel this way. And so I had read, it's funny, looking back on my history, and I think if any of our viewers are thinking and looking back at their history, you'll see probably key points and key moments where it was a person or something that had you have a realization. And so at that time, I had read a Yahoo article that said, anybody can have a business online, you just need a good idea. So I was like, okay. Well, it seems like it's difficult for independent artists to gain a following, to have support in their community in the early stages of their careers. So I decided to start an online tech startup, and that was the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey. An online community for artists that would allow them to connect to each other and have a place to showcase their art, and a place for people in any given city to find art-related events online. And so that was the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey. And that's as I started moving away from singing. I started, because it's like these two passions, and you hear people who are multi-passionate who say, how do I choose?
Oh, I haven't heard that word before, multi-passionate. I'm multi-passionate for sure.
Yeah.
Hashtag multi-passionate.
And I would say that they can weave in and out of each other. I heard a beautiful story the other day from another entrepreneur of an artist who loved gymnastics and she loved art. And her friends and family said, you're going to have to choose one. And she refused to choose one. And so now she does aerial type gymnastics while she paints.
What?
Yes.
Come on.
Yeah.
That's why I partner my social media marketing with my meditation. So
exactly. Yeah. So so to continue on, I did that for about 2.5 years, and then a trip took me to the Cayman Islands. I'd always had this dream that one day I would pick up and just go live on a tropical island, because it was this deep desire. Yeah. And I think your deep desires are part of your soul's journey. And we'll talk, I'll talk more about this, but your deep desires are part of your soul's journey. I always like to say that your deepest desire is a light that shines in the direction of your soul's greatest purpose. Mm-hmm. So these desires that we have and these longings that we have that sometimes we put away for practical reasons are actually part of your soul's expression in this lifetime. And the greatest gift that you have in the way that you can express yourself and serve the world. So I always think that there's a thread there. So my journey led me to the Cayman Islands. And in the Cayman Islands, this is where I discovered the possibility of being an entrepreneur online. Aside from doing the tech startup, I had felt at that point that my business partner and I weren't fully aligned and I needed to put the project aside. So this is when, and I'm going to pause to check in with you to see if you have any questions, because it's a bit of a story. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So okay. So first we're in Australia, right? And then some. And but you know what I love about you, Nadia, and it's no accident. You know, we met in New York, and we're like on a yacht cruise, and then we're hanging out with Marianne Williamson in Beverly Hills, and now you're telling me about Australia and Cayman Islands. It's people that live in a potential of possibility create possibilities,
Mm-hmm.
and I find that the more I meditate, the more clear I am to be able to be open and receptive to my purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like to me the same for you.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things about you and me and many of my entrepreneur friends, it's not like we're just meditating and getting inspiration. We're taking that inspired action. We're being still, asking, listening, hearing, and then taking that inspired action. Let me get on the plane and go to the Cayman Islands. So I really honor you for following and being faithful to that joyful energy that pulls you. Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. It's something that, and I completely agree with you on the meditation aspect and I'll speak a little bit to, you know, the consequence of not always following that, because there was a period in my life when I didn't fully follow that and it had its own consequences. And I completely agree that the act of meditation is bringing your mind back to a point of focus so that you can remove all the chatter. And that's when you kind of start to discover the joy and that really subtle inner voice that speaks to us and that guides us. And the more you meditate, the more I think you can find that voice. And it's in the doing for myself that I've discovered that voice actually has a lot of wisdom.
And for those of you that do not know how to meditate, before the end of the session, you will, because Nadia is going to lead us in a beautiful, I don't even want to call it a meditation, what should we call it? A experience. I just feel like what you do is like, you can't even put a word on it, that people need to, it's like a food. It's like, if you eat like a most delicious food, I don't want to describe it for you. You have to experience it for yourself. So what did you discover in the Cayman Islands, and how did that guide you into what you're doing now?
So this was the beginning of my journey in learning digital marketing and online marketing was in the Cayman Islands. I had
Really?
Yeah.
You weren't like in the ocean, like scuba diving? That's what I was doing in the Cayman Islands.
Yeah. I have a friend, a beautiful soul sister, Annika Martins, who is a beautiful soul. And she, this is when she said to me, Nadia, you may want to consider creating a product so that you're no longer exchanging dollars for hours of your life.
Yes.
And that was when the light went off for me. And so at that time, the easiest thing for me to do is I started vocal coaching after I graduated from my jazz degree. And so I thought, well, I'll do a vocal program. And so looking back, because I created a vocal coaching method and I had put a lot of work and time into that. It wouldn't say it was my greatest joy, but it was something that I did because it was like, well, this is my voice and this is something that I can do for work. And I enjoyed helping people in terms of discovering their voices. And so but looking back, I did that for quite a period of time, not feeling fully aligned. Yeah, it felt like a good plan. And this is what I want to say is especially as I started, it's like when a wheel starts to turn, it can be difficult to stop the wheel from turning. And so at the time, it didn't feel fully aligned, but it felt like a good plan and it felt like a good idea. And so I started doing that. And when the wheel starts turning in one direction, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to follow that direction. But for myself, it felt like I should. And so And so looking back, it felt not aligned for quite some time, but it allowed me to learn about online marketing, digital marketing, and to move through the barriers. If you're an entrepreneur and you don't quite necessarily feel like you're ready to show yourself to the world, that was the time for me that I started to feel more comfortable in video. I swore at one point that I would never do video.
Wow.
Ever. Like I'm an introvert. I'm like a big time introvert. And I thought I'll record my voice, but I never want to be on video. And so that was, those few years of my life, in the Cayman Islands, I discovered the concept of being an entrepreneur. I registered for B school. I learned about B school, through my friend, and it started me on this whole other path and this journey. And so I did the vocal coaching for quite some time until it started to not feel aligned for me. And this is where, I'm going to pause and see if you have any questions, because there are concepts that start to come up in terms of what I've learned of how do you discover your life purpose.
I do. In fact, thank you for tuning into me. Like literally. When you talked about that, what I heard you saying that I think is really important for people, just because you get an idea for a concept, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's your purpose or it's your vocation or it's your forever career. Mm-hmm. It may just be your opportunity to learn certain skill sets so you could do what you're really here to do. And I had a similar experience where I was a professor for a long time, and it became really clear that it was out of alignment for me. And I did a meditation, because anytime I feel off track, instead of going into action and doing more, part of my recovery from my adrenaline addict is I get still and I get quiet and I listen in my meditation. And what the word that I heard, because every time after meditation I journal, it was the word alignment. And I remember asking God, because I believe in God, I said, is it my car that needs alignment? Is it my back? Do I need to go to the chiropractor? And God was like, no, you. You are out of alignment, Deborah Deras, because the teaching at the university wasn't the highest and best use of my talents, mm-hmm. that I needed to pivot, as they say in Silicon Valley. So to take teaching, but instead of teaching counseling, to teach social media marketing. So it was the same exact experience that you had, but we need to be really present and listen to those whispers so that we don't go too far off track before we get back on. But even if we do, it's all part of the journey. So there's nothing wrong with that either.
Yeah.
And to know that wherever you are right now, even if it feels off or out of alignment, even that's a part of your journey, and not to judge it. Mm-hmm. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think it can be part of the journey. And one of my beliefs is that when you're aligned with your purpose, is that it actually causes you to grow as a person, and it causes the expansion of your soul as you help other people. And so at some point I felt like, and I learned a lot through vocal coaching, I learned how to coach people, I learned a lot about digital marketing, but at some point I felt like this is beautiful work. Like, I can acknowledge that, but I don't know if this is God's purpose for me. And it started to feel like this is not God's purpose for me. And that's when I started to make a shift.
And so how did you know that it was not your purpose? For people that are unsure what their purpose mm-hmm. is, how can you tell in your body? How can other people know this is on, this is off?
Mm-hmm. So there are a few things. I started noticing it more in my body towards the end, because the message, it felt like my body started getting louder about it. Mm. In the beginning, it felt like a hunch. It was like, I think I really thought, I told myself that I loved vocal coaching. And although I liked it, it didn't totally light me on fire. But I told other people, and I told myself that it did. And I don't regret any of it. Like, I love the people that I coached, and I love the experience, but it was like this inkling of this feels like an idea. I don't know if it's completely aligned. And it took a little while for me to say, yes, I don't think this is aligned. Back in February, I started getting chronic colds. Because the body will start to speak louder.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think it's Marianne Williamson who said, I heard her say that when we are aligned, we are happy, because God wants us to be happy, because when we are happy, we are more powerful.
Our friend Marianne, who we were hanging out with last time, I tell you, come on.
That's right.
It's so funny you say that about the sickness. When I was off purpose, I had a chronic choke, like a cough, like no matter what, it wouldn't go away.
Mm-hmm.
And when you think about it from an energetic chakra perspective, it was like right at my throat chakra, because I was not speaking my truth. I was lying to myself. And that's why you see I always wear blue. It's my representation that I will always live and speak my truth and say my truth. That's my commitment to myself, to be in integrity and in alignment with my soul.
That is brilliant. Yeah, I love that.
Yes. So what other signs and signals could people possibly get?
Yeah, so I had days where I felt happy and days where I didn't feel happy. And I wasn't sure exactly why. It just felt like there was a little bit of a heaviness. The opposite to that, like I wake up happy now. And I know it sounds like, but literally I get up excited. And I think that is the possibility. And so for me, it was something didn't quite feel right. It felt like a good plan, but it felt like the plan was a means to an end. Mm-hmm. And I think that sometimes you're in a certain position where the plan is a means to an end, but there's sometimes where you just have to check in and say, am I really just afraid to move forward towards something else? And so I remember I went to my naturopath and I broke down crying because I was like, I said, this feels like chaos inside of my body. It just feels, when I really, really got honest with myself, because not being honest with myself feels safer. When I admitted to myself that I didn't exactly know exactly where I'd be going, and that my plan was no longer the solid plan, that was a really scary place to be. So it took me getting honest with myself before I could be really vulnerable about it. And that's when I said to her, I feel like there's chaos in my body. And she said, yeah, of course. You have a purpose and you're not fully aligned with your soul's purpose. Of course it's going to feel like chaos in your body. And so
I felt that. Just in your saying that, I felt like that. Because I can feel so many people on here that are watching and listening, like almost in tears, because they've been getting that feeling and not knowing what to do with it, but instead judging themselves of not being where they're supposed to be. Mm-hmm. What message do you have for those people that are feeling like they're stuck, or that they're in mud, or that they're not where they're supposed to be?
Yeah, I would say that, like, I want to say this, you are perfect just as you are, and that is not a mistake. Like, where you are right now is not a mistake. And if you can turn what is happening, take the meaning out of it, of I've done something wrong, as this just means I'm off course. So you've done nothing wrong. It's just a brilliant indicator that something is a little bit off and your body is asking you for something. And there's wisdom in that. And there is a place that you can move your body towards. So having some self-compassion, having a moment of just sitting, and we can maybe do that in the meditation of just sitting and acknowledging yourself and sending love to yourself as if you were, like, the cutest child that you had ever seen before, because you just have so much brilliance and beauty that's waiting and waiting, to be shown in the world. And so do not take your circumstances as an indication of who you are.
Ooh, I'm in. Yes. Tweet that. That's a tweetable moment. Do not take your circumstances as an indication of who you are, because you are not your job title. You are not your marital status. You're not your FICO score. You are not your bank account. I remember when I was at the worst point of depression after my divorce, I thought that was the truth, that I was those things. And you letting people know that that's not the indication. And also the self-love and the self-compassion. One of the things that a fitness instructor who focused on affirmations and positive, he says, you can't call yourself fat and lose weight. You have to love yourself as you are, and then you can release and let go, not because you're being punished, but because you're worth it. So for you, I really think that's one of the things that I love about your energy, because there's such a compassionate, feminine, nurturing, that if I was making a life transition, I would want you to be my coach, because I just feel like you would be like, it's okay, baby. you are okay. Right where you are, it's okay. Like, I think a lot of us need that because we've spent so much time beating ourselves up when if we would just realize that, like a plane, planes are course correcting 80% of the time. Brian Tracy says in his book, Maximum Achievement. So if we're not on course, it doesn't mean we're bad or we're wrong. It just means we're growing, we're expanding, we're moving to zones and places we may not be familiar with. And that's good. That's what transformation is. It's being comfortable, being uncomfortable. But you have to be willing to notice those course corrections.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the self-blame, I think, is what keeps us stuck sometimes.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, because how does that impact you? I always, say to my clients, how does that impact you? That is one of the deepest questions you can ask yourself. What the strategy that I'm doing, the way that I'm talking to myself, how is it impacting me? And if it has you feeling low energy, stuck, and like things are not, you're not feeling good about yourself, it's not a good strategy. And so there's also a wise part of yourself that's going to say, you know what, this self-blame game is not my thing. And so, I think
like
so,
that. It's not my thing.
It's not my thing. And so we stop ourselves from moving forward until that is taken care of. Because it's like, do you want to meet your life purpose through self-blame? No, no. And so I think our bodies and our souls are waiting for us to acknowledge how great we are so that we can flourish in the world.
And that's the alignment, my friends.
Mm-hmm.
It's the matching between our potential, our possibility, and our receptivity to saying, I'm ready for it. Because it's always there for us. It's just, it will come in as soon as we are in that self-acceptance, self-loving place that's like, show me my purpose. I'm ready.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so you asked how I transitioned, or we're talking about the transition from, because I made the transition from vocal coach to transformational coach. And I'd love to chat about that, unless you have any other burning questions before we move on.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that was probably one of the the juiciest moments for me. Is that, and so you asked, how did I know? Back in February, I started getting chronic colds. The beauty that came out of that is actually part of my coaching. In that time, I felt like I had no energy. And so in the times where I once spent 6 days in bed trying to get rid of a chronic cold, and I stopped myself and I said, you know what, if I'm going to move forward, I need to be very crystal clear on what energizes me and lights me up and what doesn't. And so I had started getting images about maybe 6 months before that of a flower, and the concept that a flower doesn't require you to tell it to grow. It needs to be nurtured. A flower requires CO2, water, soil, sun. And you don't blame the flower for not growing. You just give the flower what it needs. And so that's when I started developing what is now turning into a life coaching and productivity system. And that is, with the one question in mind, is how do I make my life exceptional? And so I started tweezing out these things. And at a certain point, it became clear that that vocal coaching was not aligned and that I had to make a shift. It felt like my health was at stake. And for our viewers, I know that can be difficult to feel like you've invested a lot of time. One of the reasons why I didn't want to switch from vocal coaching is because I told people that I was doing it. It was part of my identity. It felt more secure.
Ego's not your amigo, enemigo.
Yeah. I told myself I would do it, and I was like, darn it, I'm going to succeed at this. But if you choose a vocation that doesn't fully light you up, you will not have the energy that you need to see it through.
Oh, that's good.
And
I know a friend of mine that, because he's been in the financial industry for many years, is still in it, but his heart's desire is to be a writer, but somehow he doesn't think he can make a living. And then finally he kept getting fired from one financial job. I'm like, maybe you could consider writing. And there was such resistance there because that's what he decided. That was the path of his career. Yeah. And I think that's where people get stuck.
Yes. Yeah, that we feel that we receive our validation through our, through our titles. And so if I was feeling like, yeah, you know, I show up in the world as a vocal coach and that was what feels secure and what gets me validation, it was mostly for me the time investment, but my body was screaming I needed to make the shift. So I decided to take 3 months to be in awe and to be in a space of not knowing and see what came to me, which
Ooh,
was
trusting.
totally different from anything I'd ever done before. And I remember the moment I watched a video from Oprah, and she talked about right before she got the part in The Color Purple, she said that she started surrendering to God.
Yes, I remember that. I remember that.
And so I think for me, when it felt like things started really moving and flowing and being in alignment was the day that I decided to surrender and to say, you know, God, I don't know my purpose for me. You know my purpose for me. Show me.
Yes. Yes. Use me, show me, allow. I have a whole chapter in my book on the power of surrender.
Amazing.
And people, when they hear the word surrender, they think it's giving up. It's not giving up. It's having the courage to let go of attachment. That's what my definition of surrender is.
Yeah, letting go of knowing exactly what it's going to look like.
Yes.
Yeah. And so I spent 3 months doing that. You know, I tried a bunch of things. I led workshops. I had an art / relating / an art party, essentially. You know, do I want to be an event host? Do I want to guide workshops? And I'd kind of like to get into the how to, you know, the how do you find these things. But just in short, that was when I started realizing that 2 things happened. My love of meditation and internal growth and my love for music came together. And that's when I started doing the global meditation scope and the sound healing meditations. But essentially those 3 months were the time that I allowed myself to not know what the answer was, to discover it.
And that's where it takes a lot of faith. You know, one of the things, my first coaching company was called Passionate Living Now. And when I quit my day secure job with the state of California, I say secure in quotes because I don't believe there's any such thing as security. I believe that we're always provided for by a higher, and God we trust. I believe that as long as I'm trusting the universe, that I will always be in abundant supply. I've never gone a day without food. Right? So I know that to be true. But when I surrendered and stepped out on faith, my coach said, focus on the what and leave the how to spirit. But you need to listen. You need to go within and listen and hear. It's like, I know, you know, my friend, my mentor, Oprah, I didn't know she was your friend too. We used to meet every day at 3 p.m. She would give me advice. And one of the things she says is, first you hear that whisper, yes, you should do something besides vocal coaching, right? And then you get that choke, you know, that cough that comes, you know, that knock on the door. And if we don't listen to that knock, thank goodness you and I both did. I mean, I did end up in the hospital myself with not listening as much as I could have when I was younger. And then if we don't, we get that boulder that it forces us out, where we get fired, or we go through a divorce, or we go through some condition in our life that forces us out of that identity of that ego title, whatever it may be, to trust something bigger and greater and to align. And so one of the things that I think that you do so powerfully is your gift of meditation and sound healing. As soon as I heard Nadia for the first time, I'm like, I want you to be on my new meditation CD. Your music is so like transcendent, because to me, you can't just like get into the flow of trusting just by saying trust. You really need to have like a mind altering experience, which for me, I get through hot yoga and through certain meditations. But I believe that you have a special, special gift. And I'd love it if you could demonstrate for the people listening how they can transmute their energy and how you work with people.
Yeah, I would absolutely love to. That would be a pleasure. Yeah, shall we do this?
Yeah, can we?
Okay,
Unless you wanted to mention anything else before. Because once she does this, you're going to be in another world, people.
Yeah,
prepared. Put your seatbelt on.
I think if I were to give people concrete steps, you know, we talked about my journey and you probably got little nuggets along the way, but concrete steps, you know, one of the things, the first thing would be to set aside, you know, you talked about possibility is set aside the idea that if you don't understand how something, you're going to monetize something, that you don't pursue it and to connect to what your joy is. I think that would be.
Say that again.
Is that if you, is mindset. So don't remove the possibility before you begin. So to me, what that means is if I, you know, and I oftentimes will tell people to look to what you loved in childhood around the age of like 12, 13, when you were just, you know, breaking out into the world. Do not remove the possibility before you've begun. If there is something that you love, but you say to yourself, I don't really know how to monetize it, do not close that off as a possibility for you.
Exactly. Because that can be revealed. And the opposite is true. Don't go for something just because you think you can monetize it, but you hate it. Because eventually you're going to be really, really unhappy. I can't tell you how many of my marketing consulting clients will come to me and they're like, I was making a lot of money at this, but I hated it, or I had no life, and it's just not worth it. So you don't want to exchange money for your soul. Don't make that deal with the devil. It's not worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first step is just, and as we've been talking about, following those whispers, and like we'll do right now, meditation, I think, is one of the best ways to connect to that voice. And so the guided meditation that I'm going to do, it will allow you to ground and to center, and then to open up to the possibility and ask your soul in that moment, what is it that I am desiring? While sending light and being in a place of compassion, because that is one of the greatest gifts we can be to give to ourselves. If you are experiencing resistance, and I've noticed this in my life, being in a space of compassion is the easiest way to remove any resistance that I'm experiencing.
So while sending light and compassion to ourselves, and just to clarify what I was saying, I'm not saying either you can do what you love or make money. What we're saying is when you align, and meditation is one way of aligning, you can find your own way and your own path, but you can discover your purpose and then be abundant. But don't cheat. But Nadia said, don't stop before you even start, because you don't know the possibility of how you're going to make money or how you're going to monetize it. Be open to discovering that once you step along the journey. But you need to be having the courage to take that first step, to jump in the water, even if it's cold.
Yeah, definitely. And that can happen in small places. I also want to acknowledge the part of ourselves, we have this desirous part, and you likely also have the part too that you're saying to yourself, well, financially, I need to make sure that my financial needs are met while I do this. And that is really relevant and valid, that you need to feel that, you know, that you can pay the bills and that things are working for you. And so in that moment, I would say that if you can find whatever it is that can get your financial needs met, but do not close the door to that possibility in your life, to follow that whisper and to follow that, to follow that joy. And, for me, you can tell my journey took some time. I didn't figure out how to monetize. I'm coaching now and I'm creating programs, and I didn't know how to monetize it right away, but it actually required me to be in a space of not knowing, to let it reveal itself to me. And so I strongly believe that if you will find, as you're saying, you'll find that path, but just do not close the door before you've begun.
Yes, and let it reveal itself. I know that sounds, and it's a feminine energy, and you have to be receptive to that. Instead of making it happen, being open to let it reveal to yourself. And that's where a little bit of patience comes in, along with that compassion.
Absolutely.
We are ready. Get ready, everyone. Put your seatbelts on. Do not close your eyes if you're driving, please.
Yeah, so I think we'll go for about 5 minutes. How does that sound?
Yeah, perfect. Sounds great.
Okay. So if you're watching now and you want to find a comfortable space, preferably seated, and just begin by taking a nice deep breath. Breathing in through the nose. Allow your eyes to gently close. Feel the ground beneath you. Breathing in through your nose. And as you exhale, let any stress or tension in your body flow away from you. Breathing in a beautiful white light and exhaling any stress or tension that you're feeling. Give yourself permission to be here fully for these next 5 minutes, knowing that you can get back to anything else that's going on in your day once we've completed. Envision a beautiful ball of white light above you. And this white light trickles in through your skull, going all the way down into your body, lighting up every cell inside of you. And this white light supports your dream. With each breath, breathing in this white light, and on each exhale, releasing limitation, releasing tension from your body. And then this next section, I want you to give yourself permission to dream, opening up to new possibility. Ask yourself, what do I want to create? Breathing in through your nose. What does my soul desire? Focusing on the possibility. Where are you and what do you see? Breathing in. With each inhale, you feel your body coming alive as your dream becomes alive. Sensing the possibility around you. Sending this healing energy towards yourself. Taking in one last deep breath of this beautiful white light as it fuels your dream and nourishes your body. And when you're ready, you you can start to wiggle your toes and slowly open your eyes.
Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you.
This is when I get hypnotized. That's so beautiful, right? People are like, do you ever calm down? Yes. When I listen to Nadia, I calm down like 25 notches.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Yes.
And I'll invite our
Yes.
viewers, to just notice how you're feeling and to jot down whatever ideas, anything that came up to you. Yeah.
And the wonderful part about this being recorded is you can play it over and over again, so you can listen and download, because on each day you might get something different if you do this for a series of a few days. I promise you. Wow, that was so beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing your gift, and not just telling us about how to discover our life purpose, but showing us how
Thank
you've
you.
combined your, what do you call it, multiple passions?
Yeah, being a multi-passionate entrepreneur, combining all of those.
I never heard of that. So it's like you're an MPE. I'm a multi-passionate entrepreneur. What are you?
Multi-passionate, yeah. It's when you have
Love
several
that.
loves.
Love it. I love it. So tell everyone how they can stay in connection with you, so they can find more about you and your services. And I know you're based in Canada, but you're a world traveler, international soul.
Yeah. So the best place to find me is on Periscope at Nadia Hosko, NADIAHOSKO. And I think you've probably put that in the title of the Google Hangouts also, or of the interview rather. So you can find me on Periscope. I also am, and this is special for this episode of Transformational Tuesday, I am releasing my first ever meditation today, and it's a free meditation.
Yay.
Yeah. So to find that free meditation, you can go to nadiahosko.leadpages.co/meditation. And I wrote that down somewhere, but I think it is escaping me right now. So maybe we could.
I can type it into the comments on the YouTube, so it'll be there. Just message me the link, and I'll just copy and paste it right in, so that people can go through. But thank you so much for giving us a free meditation.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. Yeah.
Everybody gets a meditation. That's your Oprah moment.
Yeah.
Love it.
Definitely.
Love it. Love it. Love it. And I love how all my guests are like Periscope queens. Like we're all, you know why we all get along, right? I think my last 5 guests are like Periscope rules the world.
We all have like beating hearts for Periscope. We all love Periscope.
Exactly. And so if for some crazy and wild reason you're not on Periscope, let Nadia be a reason that you get on Periscope, so that you can be with her on a regular basis. How often are you on scoping?
I'm starting to scope regularly, Monday to Thursday. I am playing around with the time. Right now it's 3:30 p.m. EST. That may change, but you will see me regularly Monday to Thursday giving tips for entrepreneurs, meditations, sound healings, and essentially whatever goodness I can give to you to help you align, find your purpose, and live a life that feels fulfilled and funded and energized.
Ooh, fulfilled, funded, and energized?
Yeah.
FFE? Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
I'm on that program. And also I think it's really important that you learn from Nadia the concepts of how to create products and programs so you're not exchanging time for money. I said that this morning on my scope, didn't I? And so we're on the same program. It's the program where you are sharing your unique talent, skills, and ability, but you're not a slave to it. So you don't have to be working in your business all the time to be making profit, that you should be able to go to the Cayman Islands and just kick back and relax and discover yourself without having to work, knowing that money is coming in.
Absolutely, absolutely, because you deserve to be funded and fulfilled. You know, I think when you show up in the world, or being funded allows you to show up in the world feeling safe, secure. So that is something that, you know, with my clients, it's a big part of the work that we do, making sure that your business is bringing in an income that really allows you to thrive. And it allows you to reach more people when you have a product, because you put your love, your joy, your energy into something that you create, and it's there. And then it's available to thousands of people so you can affect more people's lives.
Love that. So
Mm-hmm.
she helps entrepreneurs be fulfilled and funded. Love it. We are on the same page, beautiful one. So now that I'm in this meditative state, I better remember what I'm doing to close out this transformational Tuesday.
You look
I
quite
want
radiant right now
to,
too.
yeah, you do that to me. It's like, it's this softness that I feel, that's why I call you a goddess, that you bring out the feminine energy in me. Sometimes in entrepreneur mode, I get very masculine. And so you just kind of soften me. So that's why you see me looking softer. I give all credit to Nadia. So thank you so much. And I want to thank all of you for tuning into Transformational Tuesday. Can you just give her a round of applause? Yes, Nadia Hosko, our special guest today. And every week I bring you experts that are here to support you to transform your life, career, health, relationships, abundance. And you get all in one with Nadia, because when you meditate and you align with the divine, the world is your oyster. So be sure that you subscribe to the YouTube channel, that you look at all the links in the boxes below so you can connect with Nadia. And if you have any questions for Nadia, feel free to write them below and I will get them to her and have answers for you. And if there's any particular topics or speakers you would like, please let me know so that I can book them for future episodes. We are here every week on Transformational Tuesday at DeborahDerasLive.com. And I invite you to remember that with the power of synergy, anything is possible. Ciao.
Thank you.
Deborah Deras, signing off. Bye-bye.